Alright, today we're going to discuss the concept of ball feel. Let's use the forehand as our main example, since most players use inverted rubber on their forehand, while backhands can vary with pips. Every player has a different set of strengths. For example, if you're a physically strong and solid player, your strategy should be to extend the rallies and get into a counter-looping exchange. Or, after your serve, look for a weak return to set up a powerful third ball attack. A physically dominant player can withstand pressure and might not make an error until the fifth shot, whereas a weaker player might break down after just two. The key is to play to your strengths and be aware of your weaknesses. Table tennis fundamentals break down into three main areas. First, having a good feel for the ball, which includes touch, spatial awareness, and rhythm. Second is physical conditioning, things like muscle quality, explosive power, raw strength, and a stable center of gravity. The third area is court intelligence. Smart players watch their opponents, serve wide to draw them out, then attack the open court. They quickly identify weaknesses and find ways to finish the point. However, some physically strong players don't know how to use their advantage. Instead of hitting power shots, they get drawn into soft rallies, failing to capitalize on their strength. If you're an intelligent player, you need to play with more craftiness and variation. If your strength is ball feel, your strategy is simple: let them attack, and use your touch to place a good block. Most of you are at this stage, so let's focus on ball feel. The key is understanding rhythm. You must learn to control the tempo. In our training, we'd have 15-minute looping drills where the coach required us to practice hitting the ball at two different timings, on the rise, and at the start of its descent. So how did we practice this? I'll show you. We might start by taking the ball on the rise, and then switch to hitting it just after the peak of the bounce. So, your training must focus on developing the ability to control rhythm. This is what gives you the ability to make adjustments during a match. Most players only practice one tempo, which is a mistake. You must master different timings to develop muscle memory. For instance, after a backhand serve, if the return comes to your forehand and you want speed, take it on the rise. If you need more time to generate power, step back and contact the ball as it starts to fall. When we train young players, we make them practice hitting shots at every possible timing. Take a backspin ball for example. I can serve it short, or long and fast. These create different timings for the return, and you must learn to adapt to all of them. If your timing is off, it's because you haven't practiced controlling the rhythm. You only encounter these awkward tempos during a real match, and then it's too late. In a topspin rally drill, have your training partner mix it up. Ask them to give you slower, higher, or faster balls, or to alternate the pace to practice adjusting your timing. If you're practicing with a robot, program it to vary the tempo: fast, high, slow. Communicate with your partner. Tell them not to feed you perfect shots. Ask for awkward placements: a little wider, a little higher, a little shorter. This makes your practice more effective because it simulates real match conditions. Have your partner vary the height, speed, and pace of the ball. When you get used to seeing different rhythms, you'll adjust automatically. If you only have a robot, then you must deliberately practice hitting the ball at different contact points: on the rise, at the peak, and on the fall. We lose matches because we only train for one rhythm. As soon as an opponent plays a soft ball, jams you, plays fast, or uses pips, our game falls apart. Table tennis is all about muscle memory. You have to expose your body to every type of shot so it can react automatically. You don't have time to think: drop your racket, swing up, close the angle, finish the stroke. If you want to improve your timing, play against long pips. Their rhythm is notoriously tricky and will force you to adapt. Next, let's discuss spatial awareness, which is crucial in this sport. I'm going to share my personal approach to judging distance. This isn't from a textbook, but it works. Let's start with the forehand drive. Imagine the distance from the bounce to the end of your backswing is on a scale of 10. For me, I begin my forward swing when the ball is at position 8 on that scale. No matter where the ball bounces, we'll use the scale of 10 to represent the distance from the bounce to your racket's position at the end of your backswing. For a standard forehand drive, I believe you should wait until that 8 position before initiating your forward swing. A common mistake is rushing the contact point. Players stand too close and swing too early, making contact at position 6 before the ball has reached the optimal spot. This happens because your backswing is incomplete. Your racket stays in front of your body, creating a defensive angle that results in a block or a push, not a drive. When you crowd the ball on your forehand drive, you have no space. You try to jab at it right after the bounce, which means you don't have time for proper body rotation. In a fast rally, you simply won't have time to rotate. The second reason for poor spatial awareness on the forehand is that many players leave their body behind and reach with just their arm. Even during the backswing, your body stays behind while your hand is out in front. This means you're not getting proper sideways rotation. You must rotate your body first to transfer power into the shot. No rotation, no power. Furthermore, your backswing position is where my contact point should be. My backswing is back here, and my contact is out in front. Watch closely. On my backswing, my hand is in line with my body. My contact point is well in front of my body. But for you, your backswing position becomes your contact point. You're hitting the ball over the table, so you can't generate power. You can only push, pushing up against backspin and pushing forward against topspin. The forehand drive is a basic stroke, but even on a half-long ball, your contact point must be off the end of the table. I always meet the ball outside the table's boundary. You must make contact off the end of the table. Many players make contact over the table, and with that lack of space, you can't generate any real power. This is a major issue. You're not letting the ball come to you to create impact. You're reaching for the ball and just pushing it, which generates no force. The difference between looping and driving is even greater. For a drive, the backswing is compact. For a loop, the backswing is much larger, creating a bigger swing radius. I'll swing from back here, and make contact out here. My backswing starts here, and my contact point is here. Many players, however, have a short backswing for their loop and make contact here. In my opinion, they are swinging far too early. To generate topspin and a proper arc on your loop, you need a swing path that brushes up on the ball. Many players just swing forward, which is more of a push than a loop. That's why they never achieve that whip-like motion. The power in a loop comes from accelerating the racket head through the ball, not from muscling it with your arm. When you loop, you need to let the ball drop to the side of your body, then rotate into the shot. The power will come naturally from this rotation. Don't just swing blindly. You have to track the ball with your eyes, get into position with your body turned sideways, and create the proper angle to the ball. If I want to hit a power loop, I'll contact the ball out in front. If I want a high, spinny loop, I'll let the ball drop closer to my body before contact. You must keep your eye on the ball. As it comes, decide, I'm attacking this one, and then commit fully into the shot. I see many players who lack this focus on their forehand loop. As soon as the ball comes, they just execute a pre-programmed swing without actually watching the ball. This is why players so often miss-hit the ball on their forehand, hitting the bottom of the racket or the edge. It's simply because they aren't tracking the ball properly. They just guess where the ball will be and start their swing. Your aim is off because you're not locked onto the ball. You have to keep your eyes fixed on it. Let me demonstrate, with some exaggeration. I turn sideways, my eyes track the ball in, and then follow it through my stroke as I send it back out. This ensures an accurate contact. Don't just stare at your opponent. You need to track the ball into your hitting zone and then track it back out. If you haven't been doing this, try it. Your spatial awareness will improve dramatically. You must track the ball's entire trajectory, from their racket to yours, and from yours back to theirs. Don't just watch the opponent. If it feels too fast, don't worry. It's a skill you can train, just like when you first started and everything seemed fast. As your tracking improves, you'll read serves better and anticipate changes in direction much earlier. The next aspect of spatial awareness is vertical, the height of your contact point. Let me loop two backspin balls. Tell me which one has more spin. The first. The second. Which ball had more spin? The second one. Why? The first time, I contacted the ball on the lower half of my racket. The second time, I dropped my racket lower to contact the ball on the upper half. With the same brushing motion, the second ball clearly kicks more. When you contact the ball on the upper half of the racket, the resulting arc is much more pronounced. In slow motion analysis, it's clear that while the contact is very fast, the initial touch point for a spinny loop is on the upper half of the racket, which maximizes the friction distance. If the incoming ball has heavy backspin and I try to loop it with the lower half of my racket, it will go straight into the net. I see many players struggle with this vertical aspect of spatial awareness. You want to loop with spin and power, and while you might be hitting the racket, you're not hitting the sweet spot. It's like having an expensive blade and only using the edges. If you know to make initial contact on the upper half of the racket, your loops will be far more effective and spinny. You can still loop it over with the lower half, but it won't have the same spin or speed. The tip of the racket has the highest linear velocity, so contacting the ball there will produce the most explosive shot. Watch, I'll use the same swing speed, first contacting the middle, then contacting near the tip. The shot from the tip is clearly more powerful. Contacting the upper half of the racket generates spin. Contacting near the tip generates speed. But most players ignore this aspect of spacing and are happy just to make contact. A shot from the middle can be fast. But with the same power, a shot from the tip produces a completely different level of quality. Look at the difference. One is on the upper half, one on the lower half, the quality is night and day. One is near the middle, one near the tip, a huge difference. This applies to pushing, too. Against a no-spin or light spin ball, if I push with the top half of my racket, the ball will pop up. If I push with the bottom half, the ball stays low. The point about spatial awareness is this: if you always push with the top half and loop with the bottom half, your ball control will be very weak. You wonder, I'm doing the exact same stroke as the coach, but my receives always go high. You've kept your racket angle vertical, you've tried to chop down, but it still pops up. Why? This is why spatial awareness is so important. Even against a topspin serve, if I push with the bottom half of my racket, I can keep the ball low. But if I contact it on the top half, it's going to fly off the table. Why is there a difference between contacting the top and bottom half? Because on the top half, the friction path is short and the ball leaves the racket quickly. Let me show you in slow motion. If you contact the ball on the top half and push down, your force opposes the ball's path, causing it to pop up. But if you contact the bottom half, your downward motion allows the ball to travel along the rubber, creating friction and keeping it low. Contacting the top half makes it pop up. If you can lift your hand position to contact the ball on the bottom half of the racket, you can control it with friction. The same applies to looping. If you try to loop a backspin ball with the lower half of your racket, even with a perfect upward swing, the ball will dive into the net. It's not about your stroke, it's about the contact point. I've done an experiment before. Try to roll a ball up the lower half of the racket. No matter how much you lift, the ball's trajectory off the racket is downwards. It's not creating effective friction. However, if I brush the ball on the upper half, it creates a parabola. On the lower half, no matter how much I lift, the ball's trajectory will always be down into the net. This is why players with a grip that causes them to hit the bottom half of the racket frequently loop into the net. I'll imitate it. Players who loop backspin into the net like this always have this kind of grip. If you check your rubber, all the wear will be on the bottom half. Using a flick as an example, if you contact the upper half, the friction creates an arc. If you contact the lower half with the same motion, the ball just drops. However, an advanced player can use power to overcome this. For instance, I can power flick using the lower half, using shear force to negate the spin's effect. This explains why some players use so much brute force. Without it, the ball wouldn't even clear the net. By swinging that hard, they at least have a chance of the ball going over. But let's not rely on that. Instead, let's train our spatial awareness. When you practice pushing, try blocking the top half of your racket and only using the bottom. If you hit the top half by mistake, you know you need to adjust your hand position higher next time. Do the same for looping. Cover the bottom half of the racket. If you hit your hand, you know the contact was too low and you need to adjust. This is how you train your ball feel. You'll realize your push pops up because you hit the top half, and your loop goes into the net because you hit the bottom half. Hitting the bottom half often means your wrist is too stiff or you're cocking your wrist up too early. It's the same with serves. Players complain their hook serve has no spin, and when I check their racket, the ball marks are all near the top half of the racket face. How can that generate spin? Finally, let's discuss the third aspect of spacing, left-to-right distance. For example, when there's a push to your forehand and you frequently miss the ball entirely or hit the edge, that's another spatial awareness problem. Remember, spatial awareness is not just front to back, but also up and down and left to right. I'm going to give you a very practical method I've used since I was a kid to solve this. When you move to your forehand to attack a topspin ball, do you often find you can't reach it, or you hit your hand or the edge of the racket? Here's the simplest method: place your right foot on the center line of the table. Hold your paddle midway between the center and right sidelines. This is your base position. Every time you move, return to this spot. If the ball comes perfectly to you, just hit it. If you find the ball is jamming you, shift your weight onto your left leg to create space and then hit. If you can't reach the ball, shift your weight onto your right leg to extend your reach and hit. This is truly the easiest way to manage distance. If you constantly misjudge the distance, just use this method: foot on the center line, hand in the middle position, and then use small weight shifts to adjust for every ball. This will cover most of your forehand court. From this stance, you can cover everything except for a very wide-angle shot to your forehand. For anything wider, just use your backhand. If you just move randomly, you'll find your prediction is always wrong. I'm sure many of you have this problem. So I plant my foot here. If the ball comes at my body, I shift away and hit. If it's wide, I shift into it. If it's perfect, I hit it directly. A second method for more advanced players: when you move, don't extend your arm immediately. Your feet should land first, and your arm extends last to find the ball. This means as you move, you watch the ball. Once a topspin ball crosses the net, its trajectory is mostly set. Only then do you extend your arm to the precise distance required. Using your core as the axis, you extend your arm horizontally, adjusting the distance based on the ball's location. Extend for a wide ball, retract for a close one. The key is to watch the ball. But you must move your feet first. If you reach with your arm before your feet are set, you'll get jammed. See which method works for you. Either use the fixed center position and adjust with your body weight. Or, if your anticipation is better, move your feet and adjust your arm's extension simultaneously, using your core as the pivot to fine-tune the distance. This will allow you to cover the entire forehand side effectively.